Hey, what's up, everybody? Another great episode of Fourth Person Point of View, baby. And today's episode, something we must talk about since everybody's all in a panic. And it's not the stock market. It's the reason everybody thinks the stock market is going down, and that is tariffs. That's right. So if you've been following the news, you are aware that on April 2nd, President Donald Trump released a statement on the White House website saying that he was going to impose tariffs on a lot of the countries that we do business with because he felt like the United States was being taken advantage of. And he said he would have released these on April the 1st, but he didn't want everybody to think he was playing a joke because April 1st is April Fool's Day. So he waited until April the 2nd, and that's when the tariffs started. Now, before we go on, a lot of y'all hear the word tariff and you don't know what the hell it means. So let me give you a definition. According to OxfordEconomics.com, tariffs are taxes imposed by a government on goods and services imported from other countries. Think of a tariff like an extra cost added to foreign products when they enter the country. They are usually a percentage of the price of the goods. The level of the tariff will affect the significance of its impacts, which means there are different levels of tariffs. And if you go read the White House statement on April the 2nd, you will see the different levels of tariffs and why Trump is imposing those. But let's go further here. So it says, why do governments impose the tariff? So he gave three reasons. The first was raise government revenue, which it says tariffs serve as a source of income for governments. The second reason they listed was to protect domestic industries and correct trade imbalances. Tariffs shelter domestic industries from foreign competition and discourage consumption of imported goods. And third, as a political tool for negotiations. Tariffs can be used to apply pressure on the foreign government they are imposed on as part of a trade negotiation or a political tool. Now, that's on OxfordEconomics.com if some of y'all want to look. Now, everybody's blaming old Trumpy, saying he's losing his damn mind. But I'm not sure if most of y'all knew this, but there was a act signed called the Tariff Act of 1789, which was signed by George Washington on July 4th. And so what this Tariff Act was for a 5% tax to be on all imported goods in order to raise a little bit of revenue for this country we are in today. Now, I'm going to whitehouse.gov, and you can pull this up too. So it's on whitehouse.gov. It's the fact sheet, which was published on April 2nd, 2025. Now, I just told you that the Tariff Act of 1789 was signed into law by President George Washington on July the 4th to establish a 5% tax on imports to raise revenue. So tariffs are part of the political process. So it's not like Trump just pulled this out of his ass, right? Keep that in mind. Now we're going back to whitehouse.gov, and this is the statement that they released. It said President Donald J. Trump declares national emergency to increase our competitive edge, protect our sovereignty, and strengthen our national and economic security. Pursuing reciprocity to rebuild the economy and restore national and economic security. Today, President Donald J. Trump declared that foreign trade and economic practices have created a national emergency, and his order imposes responsive tariffs to strengthen the international economic position of the United States and protect American workers. Let's not gonna read that. Let's skip down here. Large and persistent annual U.S. goods trade deficits have led to the hollowing out of our manufacturing base, resulted in a lack of incentive to increase advanced domestic manufacturing capacity, undermined critical supply chains, and rendered our defense industrial base dependent on foreign adversaries. President Trump is invoking his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which is called the IEEPA, to address the national emergency posed by the large and persistent trade deficit that is driven by the absence of reciprocity in our trade relationships and other harmful policies like currency manipulation and exorbitant value-added taxes, VAT, perpetuated by other countries. Using his IEEPA authority, Trump will impose a 10% tariff on all countries. This will take effect April 5th, 2025 at 12:01 a.m. Now, there's a lot more on the website, whitehouse.gov, if some of y'all are interested in reading all that. And you remember a while ago when I said there are different levels of taxes, they listed the types of tariffs they talked about. They listed the type of tariffs that they were really concerned about on whitehouse.gov. So some things are not going to be affected. And those are things like steel and aluminum, which they said they are subject to something called 50 USC 1702B. So auto body parts are already subject to Section 232 tariffs, copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and lumber articles. And for all articles that may become subject to future Section 232 tariffs, bullion, and number 6 was energy. So these tariffs are basically not going to affect everything in the economy. Now, if you pay attention to what Trump is really saying here, and you step outside the box for a moment, I understand what Trump is doing. Now, from 18, hold on, it was up to 1913. What we started, 1860, let me double check so I won't give you nothing false. Let me see here, hold on. Okay, I was right. So from 1860 to 1913 in the United States, it says tariffs generated about half of the federal revenue. Remember that from 1860 to 1913, that's how federal revenue is generated. And then you go back to 1789 when George Washington was the first one who signed the Tariff Act of 1789 to make that 5% tax on imports to raise a little bit of money then too. So what Trump is doing with his tariff is kind of like piggybacking off of what everybody else has basically done. And the overall goal Trump is trying to do is to raise money. Now, he's not trying to raise money necessarily because we are living in a young nation like 1789 and we don't have the funds. It's not half from 1860 to 1913 either. What Trump is trying to do here, if you read his statement on whitehouse.gov, he's trying to get reciprocal tariffs with all these other countries. Because what they're basically doing is, I think the most favored nation tariff for us is around 2.7 or 3.3. Hold on, let me check it out here. Hold on here, bear with me. Most favorite. It's either going to be 2.7. Okay, here we go. The United States has one of the lowest simple average most favored nation tariffs rates in the world at 3.3. While many of our key trading partners like Brazil has 11.2, China 7.5, the European Union 5%, India 17%, Vietnam is 9.4%. And that's something called the most favored nation tariff rate. Now, like I just said, what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to get reciprocity. So if you scroll back on the whitehouse.gov at the end, he kind of summarizes, he says, the golden rule for our golden age. Today's action simply asks other countries to treat us like we treat them. So he's looking for reciprocity. Now, like I said a while ago, if you step outside the box and really look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to make everybody have an equal playing field. Because if America is a superpower society like we have a strong military and a strong economic base. our economy is pretty good, especially compared to a lot of smaller economies around the world. And what we do is we support all these other countries. Then the United States go and borrow money to support your ass. What Trump is basically saying, if there's reciprocity with the tariffs, the United States will save money. We'll either save money or we will make just as much money as you. So it's kind of like saying we go drink beer. We go drink beer together, and every time I buy you a beer, I have to tip the waitress more. And whenever you buy me a beer, you don't have to tip the waitress. So it's something like that, which is kind of common sense. So all Trump is saying is just because America is a bigger economy does not mean that you're going to keep nibbling off my plate because you getting drunk too, punk. And I agree with what I agree 100% with what he is doing. Now, I do not agree in the method because Trump has to keep in mind he's a billionaire. And what he's doing is shaking the whole goddamn country. And he's not giving a damn about who didn't have money put aside, which is why you should always keep 6 months of savings and keep some canned food in your pantry like I do, because you never know when shit like this is going to happen. Now, a lot of people are complaining because that's what it is. He's shaking up the whole country. I saw people online this morning who said their retirement funds can't take another loss. And then there are rumors that we're going to have a crash, a recession. So, you know, J.P. Morgan is talking about it, and a lot of other financial gurus. They saying their little formulas they put together show there was a 45% chance, and some say there was a 60% chance that we're going to have a crash over here. Now, if you remember what I said at first, the reason people impose these tariffs, sometimes it's all about them saying, hey, let's talk. So and Trump, I watched him a while ago with Bibi Netanyahu, and he said a lot of other countries are calling saying, hey, let's sit down and talk, let's make a deal. So if that's one of his overall objectives, the United States as a whole is winning. Because if we can save some of this money, it's going to benefit our economy. And you got to keep in mind as an American citizen, we're not in a financial position to be goddamn letting everybody around the world suck the Statue of Liberty's titty. We're not. I think we are in debt, what, 36 trillion? Let's double check that. How much is the U.S. in debt? 30, yeah. It says, as of April 4, 2025, the U.S. national debt stands at approximately 36.21 trillion. So, as a president / commander in chief, like I said, I don't agree with how he's doing it because he's shaking this bitch up. I mean, he ain't giving a damn about us little people down here in the middle class goddamn world. He's not giving a damn, and that's affecting people. But with debt like $36 trillion, you cannot constantly let every goddamn body keep nibbling off of you. It's kind of like having your personal finances, you supporting your mama, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, and your homeboy, and the goddamn bank's calling you saying, hey, you were late on that bill last week, so we're going to charge you an extra $50 late fee. And then, so you work a job and you got money, but see, your savings is decreasing and shit because you helping everybody else. So what you have to do, if that's the position you're in, because I would never be in it, trust me, not that shit. But if you're in that position, all these people you supporting are not thinking about your well-being, and they're taking away your resources. So what's going to happen once you collapse? You know how this shit go. They going to leave your ass and go find somebody else to leech off of. So that's kind of what Trump is basically telling us that everybody's doing to America, which they are. Based off what I'm reading here on the White House website, they are. They're getting over on us. Let me see if I can give you some numbers here. So it says, this is an example here. So it says, for generations, countries have taken advantage of the U.S. tariffing us at higher rates. The United States imposes a 2.5% tariff on passenger vehicle imports with internal combustion engines, while the European Union, 10%, and India, 70%, impose much higher duties on the same product. You see where I'm going with this? For networking switches and routers, the United States imposes a 0% tariff, but India imposes 10 to 20% levies, higher rates. Brazil, 18%, and Indonesia, 30%, impose a higher tariff on ethanol than does the United States. Then if you do a deep dive in here, some of our ranchers over here who produce, who have cattle, especially like your Black Angus, that's kind of like the good steak right there. If you like steak, you probably like Black Angus. I'm a country boy, so I know this. But so we take agriculture products from certain countries, but they won't buy our cattle, which throws our economy. I'm not gonna say throw it, but it kind of limits it. And once again, if you go back to what Trump is saying, eye for eye. You treat me well, I treat you well. We import your watered down goddamn agriculture, because a lot of these countries got bullshit agriculture. It's not to the same standard as ours, but you don't want to take none of our beef supply, which would help our economy. And then, like some of the companies send their apples over here, but they won't take our pork. Now, some of the reasons that they give, like South Africa, they say they don't want to take pork from the United States because it's not up to some standard, some kind of chemical or something they said was in there. Now, I understand everybody around the world's got their little, I guess, what do I call it? Your standards. Like, I guess we have this, we have the USDA and the Centers for Disease Control. All these people come together with the health department. I guess that'd be Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s area. So you come up here and you get together and you find out, you set certain standards for your country and say, hey, we don't allow products to use that type of fertilizer. We don't like animals that have such and such type of chemicals because they're dangerous. But the countries who are saying they don't want certain products from America, I mean, basically y'all little shithole countries. So you can't have too much of a standard punk. Then if you look on the flip side of it, a lot of these same countries that are overcharging the United States on the tariffs, the United States go back and give your broke ass some type of economic aid, whether it's in the healthcare field through USAID, shit like that. So you want me to loan you money, or better yet, help you pay your bills, but you won't come over here and buy products from me. You won't give me none of your money, but you take mine. So, I mean, if you break it down to a common sense perspective, it's just not how it works. I mean, it's kind of like that, like I told you earlier, it's kind of like that friend who always come around want to drink beer, but he ain't never got no damn beer. Shit, you just come over here and deep throat and glut beers, motherfucker, but you can't never bring a six pack with you? Nah, you got to cut that short. Or like somebody who's always riding to work with you, and you don't ask them for no gas, but they don't ever offer none. And then they be like, hey, take me over there, take me over there. Yeah, cut that shit short. So in a common sense view, that's kind of what Trump is telling all these countries in the global community. We cutting this shit short. You've been leeching off of America too long, and you're not helping us anymore. And what they also do is they build their economies off of the backs of America, whether that be coming over here, getting a job, sending it back to India, Mexico, or else you using all these damn tariffs that you put on us at such a high rate at 30% or 18%, and we charging you 2 or 3%. So that big profit that you making, you go back and help your people saying, hey, this is our economy. And then we as Americans got this $36 trillion debt. That shit steady going up. So, like I said, I don't agree with how Trump's doing it, and maybe there's no other way. Maybe there's no other way to do it. Maybe he's saying, hey, man, I got 4 years to shake this shit up, so I'm going to do it ASAP. Because you got the elections coming up in a few more, 2 more years, less than 2 years. So he don't have a lot of time. But like I said, what he's doing and what he's asking for on this website basically is reciprocity. Treat us like we treat you. So if we have 0% tariffs, you goddamn come back with 0% tariffs. If we charge you 2.5, you charge us 2.5. And if we can get this thing reciprocal where every country, no matter how big or small, if you're charging us what we're charging you, America should come out on top, because America has more leverage than these smaller companies. So we should win. And with 36 trillion in debt, somebody better take a stand. Because if this debt goddamn just keep going and going and going, it will almost be impossible for the United States to get out of debt. You don't want to be a goddamn debtor nation. Excuse me, you don't want to be a nation in debt like that. It's just not a good look. Nobody wants to be in debt. Nobody. Especially a powerhouse. You know, you can't be a superpower and just be in debt like that. And then, like I said, you slowly building these other little shithole countries up. And goddamn, once they get to a certain status, who knows? They might goddamn leave your ass and go have a relationship with China or Russia. And that's basically what Donald Trump is saying. So I wanted to touch on that, man. And I've been watching the stock market all day. I've been hearing a lot of people talk. About their stock portfolio. And so everybody's saying Trump needs to make a decision with these tariffs. But if you don't panic and you say a prayer, you might be okay. But honestly, like I said, ever since the Tariff Act was signed into place by George Washington to make that little 5%, tariffs have a reason. There's a purpose behind them. And, you know, Trump's kind of like a radical person. So I think that's kind of what a lot of people are talking about, is just the fact that it's Trump. But what he's doing, like I said, reciprocity is all he's asking for. And if it's not going to be reciprocal, at least if these other countries can goddamn come down and meet the United States somewhere, we will save billions of dollars, like he's got it on here on the website. So I suggest y'all go online and read this. Is actually it's interesting. Yeah, it'd be billions of dollars and shit. Like I said, with 36 trillion in debt, we need every damn dollar we can get. But I'm gonna jump off here. I just wanted to address that right there. This has been Fourth Person Point of View, baby. I'm out.